The stock market has been tumbling pretty much all year. Account values are dropping. When is it going to stop? That's what I'm thinking about today. We all know that the stock market is going to take dives over time. It's going to go down, but it can be really unsettling when you have things like this year, when it just seems like every day there's more bad news and it keeps going down and down. And of course, that's not exactly the case, right? There's been some pretty good up days too, but it certainly doesn't feel like that. And how do we put that in perspective? And it's natural to think about, hey, when is this going to end? Like, when do we get to see that other side of things? And of course, the answer to that is, I don't know, and neither does anybody else, right? We just don't know when this is where we're going to start seeing the upside to it. But I've been thinking about that recently. I wanted to share one thing from you from LPL Research. In our recent video, we talked about some of the midterm, as far as election year cycles, the midterm returns, and how midterm years are typically worse than other years. LPL had this other chart here, which will show talking about when does it hit bottom. And you can take a look over on the left-hand side. I think we go back to 1950 here. Typically, the bottom of the market is sometime late summer, early fall, right? That August, September area. So here we are in late spring, and we've already been down through April when this was posted. Market S&P 500 anyway was down about 13%. I think as I'm recording this, we're down somewhere closer to 18 or 20% on the year, so a little bit even worse than that. And you take a look at those in the red numbers here. What was the downturn on this? You get down to the bottom with the average and median, and it's, in the mid-teens, and we're maybe a little bit ahead of that right now. Like, okay, if this is what the average or the median is, we expect to see some numbers on both sides, right? It looks like we're going to have one of those numbers on the negative side this year. What does this mean? And before I go on, take a look at that right-hand side, right? For what it's worth, what has happened after these bad years and having this downturn in a midterm cycle is, some pretty significant green numbers, right? Does this mean we expect to get 30% return, after we hit bottom here? No, absolutely not, right? But it does give you some of that, good side versus bad side, some of that balance. Like, once we hit bottom, there's a good chance we're going to see some upside to this. So how do we think about this? Like, what do? We expect things to go down. There's probably a pretty good chance, right? It looks like this based on history that, golly, we might see another, few months of negative numbers on this. And we don't know this, right? But just to be not surprised, it's like, what do we do about this? Do we jump out or do we make a change? Like, no, we just don't know what's going to happen. Maybe the bottom of the market is tomorrow, right? Maybe it's not for 3 months from now. Maybe it's late in the year. Who knows how this stuff goes? So why am I talking about this? It's to give perspective to say, listen, if we have another couple bad months in the market, not to be surprised, not to be panicked, but to be of a mindset that says, oh yeah, there's a decent chance that we're going to see some more negative numbers. Not shock and awe, not surprised. Like, what do we do? Like, oh yeah, that's kind of a bummer. We've built our portfolios to withstand these bad years, right? I use the example of being a farmer all the time, right? If I'm a farmer, I'm planting my beans and my corn. If I have a bad year and I have a flood or a drought in my fields, it doesn't mean that I don't plant my beans or corn the next year, right? I don't try to predict what's going to happen. Golly, it looks like we're going to have a really dry year. We're going to have a really wet year. I don't make a decision, should I plant my crops in the spring? No, I know that if I plant my crops every year, 7 or 8 or 9 years out of 10, we're going to have some pretty good returns on those crops. And 1 or 2 or 3 of those years, we're going to have a flood or a drought or something that causes profits not to be there. But that consistency makes sense. And of course, when you think about being a farmer, it's logical. It makes sense to everyone. It's not quite as intuitive in our investments, but it works the same way, right? We're going to continue to do the things that we do. Over time, it works out. And when we have years like this where they're challenging, hey, maybe we're going to have a few more bad months on that, and to be prepared for it, not to be panicked and to be sort of, oh yeah, that was a possibility, right? And to be less reactive to it. So that's what I'm thinking about today. As always, I'm interested to know what you're thinking about. If you're watching this on YouTube, let me know what you're thinking in the comment box below. Shoot us an email. And as always, thanks for watching.